Hi, everyone. This is Betsy Wurzel, your host of Chatting with Betsy on Passionate World Talk Radio, where our mantra is to educate, enlighten, and entertain. And as always, I have a special guest with me today. But before I introduce my guest, I have to do my disclaimer. The views of the guest may not represent those of the host or the station. Please always consult with your primary care physician about any medical advice. My guest with me today is phenomenal. I just met her last year, and my guest is Sarah Stelmach-Brown. She is host of the podcast Caregiver Chronicles, which is heard on several platforms. Her husband, Jeremy Brown, edits and is her husband and helps with, what spouses do with the kids and everything. Sarah is a caregiving advocate with a major focus on autism and Alzheimer's disease. She is mom of 2 boys on the Autism Spectrum. Sarah worked as a certified nursing assistant and a certified medication technician at assisted living facilities, nursing homes, and in-home care. Sarah left in July 2021 after experiencing caregiver burnout. Sarah also has the Caregiver Chronicles Facebook page. I highly recommend that you check out the podcast. I was a guest on there back in November of 2022. Sarah she's down to earth, raw and passionate as she speaks about her experiences as a caregiver in both personal and professional settings. Sarah uses her podcast to help caregivers from all walks of life to connect to others and get their message out about making the world a better place for those we care for and those who care for us. And I want to welcome Sarah Stelmach-Brown to Chatting with Betsy.
Thank you so much, Betsy. I'm so grateful to be here chatting with you today.
Well, you are welcome, and I'm so glad to have you on. I forgot how we met, but I think it was in a group, but I'm so glad that we did meet. I enjoyed being on your show. Your show is very important. You have phenomenal guests on, and I like to tell people about other resources because that's what I'm here for, and that's what you do. And yeah, I love when we support each other, each other's work. And we have a lot in common, folks. I have to tell you that. I have a child with special needs. Sarah has 2 children on the autism spectrum, and you have experience in working in the healthcare field, and I do. And we connected. And I'd like for you to tell your story of, I know what it's like to be a mom of 1 with special needs. You have 2 with special needs. So I want to know, how do you do it all? I want to know your secret, Sarah. How do you do it all?
I don't. So I'm going to start with that. I'm going to start with I don't. If I'm going to be honest, and I like to be honest, I'm not going to lie to your audience or mine. There is always something not right. Either my hair is a mess, one of my kids is a mess, or my house is a mess. Nothing is perfect, and nobody can do it all, and nobody should be expected to do it all. I'm very fortunate that I have a good support system and a really good family that has been super accepting to my children. My husband is like an amazing father, and without him, I don't think that I would be talking to you right now. Actually, I know I wouldn't be talking to you right now because his support has been crucial to me being able to do this podcast. If he edits and he's the one with the media experience and things like that. He helps me around the house as well, and he helps me with the kids. And when I was working full-time, I was working second shift and he was working third shift, and I could not be there with the kids for appointments and things like that, and he had to take that role. I could do the day stuff, but he'd have to do anything that involved after school, anything. He would have to take that role. And even now that I'm a mostly stay-at-home mom, he still helps with laundry and other tasks around the house because, again, nobody can do it all. We're a team.
I love that. To hug Jeremy for me, okay? You have to hug that man for me. That's wonderful because a lot of people don't have a supportive spouse, and a lot of people aren't honest, Sarah. I love your honesty. I know I didn't do it all. When I was caregiving and working, my house was a mess, and talk about hair being a mess. Sometimes I don't even get to my hair, even now. And, you know, I think, Sarah, and maybe you could tell me your opinion, I was under the impression I had to be the superwoman, wear the cape, and do it all, until I found myself in the therapist's office on the verge of a nervous breakdown. That was what I had experienced, thinking that I had to do it all. And I would encourage women and men out there, you don't have to have this thing where you need to do it all. And if you need help, ask for help and go for help.
Well, I'm going to say same on that. I had this same feeling, like I have to do everything. Everything's if anything fails, it's my fault. And, you know, I had, you know, same. I was in a virtual counseling session, not in an office because, you know, it was pandemic years. And I told her, I said, you know, I don't know how other people have it all together. And she's like, who has it all together? And I was thinking, like literally sitting there thinking about my friends, my family. I'm like, who has it all together? Who has their mental health in place, their physical health in place, their home in perfect condition, always has their makeup, hair done. The kids are always happy, healthy, and fed something other than chicken nuggets. Nobody I know actually has that life. Everybody, there's always going to be a day, like my house, I'm in yoga pants and my hair's in a messy bun and I didn't brush my teeth or shower because I've been cleaning the house all day. Realistically, that's just life. And nobody has it all together. And I just want to share this example of it because sometimes we don't even notice. We're so busy worried about what other people think of what we look like that we forget that they don't care as much as we think they do. We care more about what we think than other people care. I had a Christmas party this past year, and I realized after the party that I forgot to clean the bathroom because I was so busy cooking a turkey and a ham and cleaning the rest of my house and setting up a table and, you know, making things as nice as I possibly could for my friends who came to visit for this party, that I forgot to clean the bathroom. And not a single person, I don't know if any of my friends noticed, but not a single person said anything about it. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about how do we do it all.
Yes, that's true. And, you know what, Sarah, I have to say this because I interviewed someone about parenting. And, you know, there's the pressures of parenting and being the perfect parent. And no one's a perfect parent because we're not perfect, nor is there a perfect caregiver. But the media, and I think as like the media, social media, we think because we see this family smiling and having a good time, it's always like that. But it's not. No one knows what went on before or after that picture took place. And that's saying, you know, all that glitters isn't gold. So we don't really know what's going on in other people's lives to know if they have it, you know, all together. They might appear like they have it all together, but in reality, they don't. And I really appreciate your honesty because sometimes, you know, I'm a mess too. Good thing I do audio interviews. I'm in my pajamas. My hair's not done. And I'd like for you to talk about, because we've all experienced it, caregiver burnout. What was that like for you? What did it look like and feel like for you?
It didn't look good. I'm going to start. I was in the caregiver realm since I was 17 years old. I was a nurse's aide. which I'm very proud of, and I loved my job. And I also want to make sure that I make it clear that this is nothing against the facility that I worked at. They were actually a really great facility and a very supportive facility in comprehension to other places that I had worked prior to working at the place that I had resigned from. My burnout, yes, part of it was due to the job of being a nurse's aide, but a large part of it was due to being a caregiver at home too, and not being able to, other than my 20-minute car ride between work and home, not really being able to step out of that role of a caregiver. I was taking care of my son. His needs are very intense. He is nonverbal. He's 7 years old, and he's still in diapers. He's nonverbal, and he just requires a lot of physical support. And then I was going to work, and I was doing that physical care on people, and it was just, as anyone could imagine, it was exhausting. And I've kind of had a couple bouts of burnout. It wasn't just one episode of burnout. It was one episode that led to a podcast where I had basically told my husband I wanted to die, literally, and meant it, that I did not want to be here anymore because I could not see myself in a position where anything was going to get better. And I want to say to anybody who feels that way, please reach out for help. There's so many services, and it does get better. I was very fortunate that I had connections to therapy, and I got myself back in therapy, and I even reached out to a crisis line in that moment. It took a little bit of, by a little bit of time off, I mean 4 days off work, but was fortunate enough that I had enough people around me to really help me get back up from there. And that's when I decided I wanted to share my journey. Fast forward to after my grandmother passed away, and I kind of realized I had this moment after she passed that I was starting to get now more than just the mental symptoms of burnout, because now I knew how to deal with the mental stuff in a way, but in other ways I wasn't addressing like the physical fatigue and the physical exhaustion. So then the physical stuff started to hit with the burnout, and I was getting like eye infections and stomach infections and stomach pain and just fatigue galore. And at this time, you know, my son wasn't sleeping, and he was smearing things from his diaper all over the wall. And it was just like, so I was dealing with that during the day, and then going to work and caring for people with, you know, dementia and all kinds of other things, which I loved doing, but it was too much for anybody. Just dealing with it, with what I had to deal with at home, was more than enough.
Yes.
So once I hit the physical level of burnout, that's when I decided that I needed to stay home. I needed to leave my job and stay home, mostly because putting my kids up for adoption is frowned upon. That was a joke. I would never do that. Yeah. But
I get it.
I had to, something had to give, and it had to be my career.
Yeah. So. Sarah, I really love your honesty, and I can so relate to how you were feeling, because I'm very open and honest. Folks, a lot of caregivers have suicidal thoughts, and I did myself, and I don't know why. Like, I don't even know where it came from. But one day, I mean, it scared me. I was thinking, how do the railroad tracks feel in the winter versus the summer? And I was idolizing about that and fixated on it. I'm thinking, what is wrong with me? What is going on here? I would never leave my family. And I said, I'm in this dark hole. I'm getting out of it. I'm not going back in. And like Sarah said, there are resources in your area. This is hurdle over. Consult with your primary care physician. It is okay to ask for help. And I just want to say the suicide prevention hotline is 988 here in America. I go for help. I'm not ashamed to say it. I talk virtually to social worker. As a matter of fact, today, because I just started on Medicare, I am going to go back to a psychologist I used to see when I was a caregiver, and that was in his the middle of his journey with that. because I need more than just talking to a social worker twice a month. I have a caregiver post-traumatic stress disorder. It's a real thing. I'm glad it's being recognized. Do you experience that? I know you're still caregiving, but do you feel like you have caregiver post-traumatic stress, Sarah?
It is suspected, yes. And, it's from multiple things. It's not just from, actually, there is a statistic that autism moms do experience PTSD just from, various challenges there is in raising a child with autism. And by no means, I don't want to make it sound like my kids are a burden or like anybody on the spectrum is a burden, because that is not true. Everybody's here and they need to be accepted, but there are challenges in raising a child with special needs. And a lot of special needs parents, not just autism parents, but special needs parents, do get diagnosed with PTSD. Also, I was working in an assisted living facility during COVID, and COVID did go through my building, and I was very sick with that. And that was at a time where it was not like there were no treatments yet. There were no vaccines. People just unfortunately were dying. And I still have nightmares about COVID. Going through my work and things like that. So there's definitely some symptoms of that. It's a trauma response, and it's something that happens. The statistics on PTSD are very high, actually. You don't necessarily have to be in a caregiver role or have served in the military. And again, I'm not discrediting anybody who did. I thank you for your service. I support the military 100%. But you could have been in a car accident that was traumatic, or lost a child, or have been a victim of a violent crime and survived. And, you can have PTSD from any of those things. It's post-traumatic stress disorder. I think no specific group of people should own it or claim it as just their own. It can happen to anybody because you go through a traumatic event and you have this disorder after, and it triggers like anxiety, and it's awful. But yeah, I absolutely do have that.
Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely agree, Sarah. Anyone can have it, from childhood trauma to, whatever unfortunate event happened in your life. And, if one more person tells me one more time, life goes on, I feel like screaming.
Yep.
Yes, I know life goes on, but life's not the same. And this was the third Christmas without Matt, and New Year's, and Matt died on New Year's Day. So how can that be the same? And yes, I was traumatized watching my husband die. Yes, I saw people die and I worked as a nurse. They weren't my husband. And it's totally different. And, I had such anxiety. I guess I was shocked that I thought I would be, I hate to say the word better, but for lack of a better term, I thought I would be dealing with it much better now than in the past, and I'm not. That's why I want to go talk to a psychologist to get help, to know how to deal with this in a better way. It might, the memories come up, and I never would have left my family, and it really scared me. But when people asked me, why did you name your group #Kick Alzheimer's Ass Movement, it's because either I had to kick Alzheimer's ass or it was going to kick mine. And that's how I came out with that name for my group, because there are ways, and it helped me mentally to know, what, whenever I post about Alzheimer's and I'm telling people about it and what to, look for, to me, I'm kicking it. And when I went and took Matt out and enjoyed life, I was kicking Alzheimer's. That was the imagination that I had to use for my mental health. And everyone's different, but that's what I had to do. And it, it is challenging when you have a child with a special needs. And I wish, Sarah, and I'm going to tell the audience that people should not judge. I always say, you don't know what life has in store for you. Don't ever judge anyone for going for help, for therapy, because you might, in the audience, might think, oh, I won't ever need that. You don't know what's going to happen to you. You might need it. You might need help down the line, and you don't want anyone to make fun of you because you need help or you need to take anti-anxiety or antidepressant. And I'm very passionate about that because I'm also a mental health advocate. You are a really busy mom. How did you start your podcast?
Well, at the time that I started it, it was during the pandemic, and I remember, as you know, while I was recovering from like my mental burnout, I feel like I had two. Looking back now, I feel like I had 2 episodes of major burnout. But as I was recovering from my mental burnout, my husband had started writing for a blog called What's on Disney Plus, and I told him, I'm like, wouldn't it be cool if we started a blog and shared our story? At that time, I was sharing stories of just random things that I was dealing with on Facebook and trying to debunk myths about autism and Alzheimer's and various things just on my Facebook page or my personal page. And a few people told me not to do that. They said, don't talk about your bad things. Like, people are going to think this, that, and the other thing. And, you know, we need to keep these things taboo. And I don't. And while I'm getting these messages, I'm also getting messages from people like, oh, my God, I'm going through the same thing with my kid right now, and I can't talk to my family because they're in denial. Or, you know, my grandmother is starting to show signs of Alzheimer's, and I have no idea how to, like, tell my mom or how to help her because I've never worked in healthcare. I'm just, you know, I'm an IT specialist, and I do this, and, you know, I live near my grandmother. My mom moved away, and I'm her caregiver, and I don't know what to do. And you know, just me sharing stories of my life and finding that some people tell me not to, and I have this very much rebellious streak about me where if you tell me I can't, I probably will.
You're so much alike.
But also, if someone's telling me in my other ear that this is helping me, because I really do want to help people, that's why I became a nurse's aide and a medication aide. I wanted to help people. It's that simple. If I wanted to be rich, I would have never have gotten into healthcare. And so when people were telling me we want help, my husband and I sat and we talked about starting a blog, and he looked at me and he said, honey, he was burnt out too because he worked for a local news station. This is the summer of 2020 when everything in the world was going on. And he looked at me and he said, honey, he said, I love you so much. He said, I am too burnt out to edit your writing. He's like, you're a horrible writer. He's like, you're a great speaker. You're a terrible writer. What if we do a podcast instead? And our first episode was recorded in our truck on my cell phone. And, you know, that it's become my third baby. Caregiver Chronicles has become my third baby.
Wow, we have so much in common, Sarah. I think that's why we connected so well, because I had to turn my anger into a positive. And so I went in my car, and before I had brought a smartphone, I was posting on my Facebook page about, you know, Alzheimer's, saying how I felt. But once I got a smartphone, and I said, you know, why don't I do a video? No one's going to listen to me. And started showing that picture and saying, this is the new face of Alzheimer's, and talking about early onset, talking about caregiving, and, you know, being a rebel and just saying how I felt. And you're right, people would respond and say, Betsy, you're saying what I feel, but won't say, because the things that we talk about, Sarah, are considered taboo. They're really not, but they are. And we find out that people are feeling the same way. And I say this on the show all the time. Everyone feels like they're alone in how they feel, but you're really not. It's just that people won't say how they feel because they're afraid. They're afraid of being judged. And, you know, if we only knew that, you know, when we tell our stories, we're sharing our experiences and helps other people and helping us at the same time. And I was really very overwhelmed about what people would say. And never did I think once I got in my car doing videos that I would be having a show. Jeannie White, who's station manager, Passion World Talk Radio, saw one of my videos and interviewed me, and I talked on her show, and she gave me my so I had my own show. But that's one of the purposes of my show, is to help other people, to know about resources that I wish I knew about when Matt was alive. And it's all about helping people. That's why we do what we do, for sure. And
yes, exactly.
Yes, and do you have a Facebook page, Caregiver Chronicles? Is that a group, Sarah? Is that a support group or a business page?
It's not a support group. It is a business page right now. I don't know if that will ever expand or not. We do have an Instagram page as well for Caregiver Chronicles, and we're on TikTok, and we're on Twitter as well.
Oh, okay. And I just love your story because you have so many layers. And I like the fact, and I know I said this before, but you are real. And I could hear your passion. And I think your passion is wonderful because I feel like our passion gave us a purpose. Not the road that we thought we would take or that we would be on, but it's the road that was given to us. Different, pathways happen. And wanted to know, are you in a support group for moms who have autism, children on the spectrum?
Yes, there is a state agency. Actually, the state agency that does the support group that I'm in, they're actually our sponsor for Caregiver Chronicles. They're called Favor, and I have a support group leader. Her name is Lisa, and she's just phenomenal. And she gets it because she is not just somebody who's, a psychiatrist or, has a background in social work. She is a mom with kiddos, who have similar struggles, not the same, but similar struggles as well. And I think that for support groups and things like that, I think it's important to make sure that, the facilitators and the people in the group have similar struggles. And it's more a support group for children with, behavioral needs, not specifically autism. But, yeah, and be careful with support groups, too, because there are some autism parent support groups that are labeled as support groups, and they kind of have an agenda to push specific diets, products, or lifestyles on parents that might not be the best for you and your family. And that is unfortunately something that, upon research, I have stumbled upon many a time, these groups that say that they're there for support and they're really pushing an agenda or a lifestyle that really doesn't align with my family and our beliefs or our values.
True. That's very true. I know I went crazy. 2014, I went on Facebook, and I literally went nuts joining every support group I could find about dementia because I was without support for so long. And it was great knowing that there was other people going through the same thing, but then you kind of have to weed out what groups work for you, what don't. And sometimes it just amazed me and shocked me that caregivers would jump down someone's throat for replacing their mom or dad or husband in a facility and judge them. That is so wrong. And, you start to leave groups when you realize, there's too much fighting going on here and too much judgment, and the philosophies may not align with yours. And also, I believe, too, that, if someone wants to, like a geriatric consultant or a nurse manager, me personally, Sarah, I want someone who's walked in my shoes, who knows what I'm going through. There's people, yes, they had the professional knowledge and the book knowledge, but if they haven't experienced it firsthand, they don't know. But when people who have experienced it, they know, and I think they make much better managers and consultants. I know someone who, she said, yeah, I was able to talk the talk, but when I experienced it, it was a whole different thing. And now she feels she's better at her job because she experienced it personally, which is true.
Yep. I couldn't agree with that statement more. And I think, Betsy, I think that's why we, like you and I, are so much alike in some ways, because we're advocating for mental health and we're advocating for family caregivers. And, we talk about Alzheimer's, we talk about, being a parent of a child with special needs and what that looks like. And we can talk about these so openly and so candidly and so passionately and relatably because we are that. You know what I mean? Like that is
right.
Part of, that's a massive part of who we are, and it does, that caregiving role, even like when I first started in caregiving as a nurse's aide at 17, my grandparents, neither one of them had Alzheimer's yet, and it was one thing, and I didn't really know anybody well who had Alzheimer's at that point other than the people I cared for. It was a whole other thing when I noticed signs of dementia in my grandfather, and then I was working on a Alzheimer's unit. It was a whole other thing when I was noticing signs of dementia in my grandmother, and I was watching her decline, and just dealing with that and working on a unit. And even when I was working in home care, I was assigned to cases where I was caring for children on the autism spectrum, and I didn't have kids on the spectrum yet, and I had no idea. Like, I had no training on autism. I had nothing. I had no idea what to do or how to help these kids. And I just felt so lost. And I remember crying. I remember calling the office for home care, crying, knowing that I was in way over my head with taking care of these pediatric cases and begging them to not give me cases with kids who are on the autism spectrum, and crying, saying it's not that I don't like them, it's that I don't know what to do. And it's kind of funny, like it sounds so wimpy to cry to your boss, and then all of a sudden, 5 years later, I'm a mom of 2 boys on the spectrum. So how's that for karma? But it is though. Like looking back at it now, I wonder how I would be if I were in that role now. At the same time, I feel like that would probably exacerbate my burnout. So.
Yeah, I always believed, when I worked as a nurse, to treat everyone with respect and dignity. And I worked at an institution that had severely disabled clients. And the aides would say to me, Betsy, who are you talking to? He said, I'm talking to the clients. Well, don't you know they don't talk? I said, yeah, I know they don't talk, but they could hear, and they're human beings, and they deserve to be talked to. Everyone wants human contact. And this is so sweet, but someone went to school with my son. We became friends, and he said to me, Betsy, I love you. You treat me like a human being. He has autism. And I said, of course, why wouldn't I treat you like a human being? And, it's so, and I know Sarah, it's so heart-touching and it's powerful that we just want people to know, treat others how you want to be treated. How would you want your child to be treated if they had autism, if they had another type of special need? How would you want your relative to be treated if they had any kind of dementia? And that's how I always treated people. And I think I'm a better person for having experienced what I did experience. Do you find that you are a better person, Sarah, for going through, and you're still going through, raising 2 children with special needs? Do you feel it made you a better person?
For sure. I have a lot more compassion than I had prior to becoming a special needs mom. I not that I didn't have compassion before, I just have a different level of compassion now. I had expectations for what my life would look like as a parent, and it doesn't look like that. And I am now the parent who, when I hear parents struggling in public with their kids, I'm the mom who's like, hey, it's okay, Mom. We've all been there. It's okay. I know you're trying. I know you're doing your best. Prior to having specifically my younger son who requires the needs that he has, I have to put him on a harness when I go out, like a harness leash, because he will just take off, and he's nonverbal. We'll never find him. He'll end up in a street or in a river. And I know this, so I have to do everything I can to protect my child. And I used to see parents with their kids on harnesses, and I used to think, oh my God, what an awful thing to do to a child. And now that I'm in that role, I wish I never thought that way. And I realized, my kid needs this, and other people's kids need this, or probably in the same boat I am. And I deal with now, like we talked about before, the stigma and the judgment of, taking my kiddos places and people looking at us and rolling their eyes and things like that. And, when my son's just stimming or just trying to be happy, and my attitude has changed so much, because now my attitude is, my kid belongs in the world just as much as your kid, just as much as any kid. My kid belongs in public just like every other kid does. And if you have a problem with it, it's your problem, not our problem. And that's kind of something that I've been pushing with my family and friends. And so we've just been going. We've been taking our kids, now that things are open again and things are better, we've been taking our kids everywhere we can. And, we receive judgment, and I don't care anymore. And I know when I see someone else and they're facing judgment, I do what I can to try to help and support them in that moment. So I think it has made me a better person in that sense.
Yes, yeah. I definitely feel, the better person. I learned, and also Josh learned, a deep unconditional love, a deep love connection that I can't even put into words, to take care of someone who cannot do anything back for you. And it's something that it's really hard for me to put into words, but when you learn a deep unconditional love and a deep love connection like that, it does make you a better person. And when I used to take Matt out, and as he progressed, people would stare. And I really felt like saying, why don't you take a video, make it go viral, because this is what Alzheimer's looks like. And I had people tell me, Betsy, I'm going to take my loved one out because I see you taking Matt out. And I just want to tell the audience and encourage everyone, you know what, live your life. And if you have a spouse or a relative with any kind of dementia, or you have children with any kind of disability, go out and enjoy life. And if people stare, you know what, let them stare. We used to say, take a picture, make it last longer, back in the old days. We really need to be out there enjoying our life. And if people are uncomfortable with that you're right, that's their problem. It definitely is not our problem. And I hope more people come out and start enjoying life and take pictures of their loved ones and enjoying life. And that's what, we should be doing. And that's how, and I still, to this day, that's how I kick it. I go out there with Josh. I enjoy life. I honor Matt's birthday. People might think I'm crazy. I get Matt a birthday cake. We sing happy birthday to Matt. I honor him on Father's Day. And you know what? I feel this way. People are not comfortable with that. Not my problem. I don't need anyone's permission to grieve or or show pictures of Matt, or it's like, I don't know why people think, okay, they're gone. Why are you still showing their picture? Because they lived a life, and they deserve to be honored. So I would encourage, if any of you in the audience lost a loved one, I'm sure many, many have, show pictures of your loved one. Don't worry about what people think. I'm getting too old for that. I'm 65. I'm getting too old for that, Sarah.
No.
Excuse me.
Betsy, you're 100% right. Everybody has the right to grieve in their own way, and everyone has the right to honor their loved ones in their own way, and experience the world in their own way. When my grandmother was alive and, she was kind of towards the end stage of dementia, we went on a camping trip with her. We knew damn well she wasn't going to remember any of it, and we knew she was going to have hard moments being away from home. But at the same time, I knew that was my last birthday with her, and it was. That was my last birthday weekend with my grandmother, and I got to spend it at my favorite campground with her, my kiddos, my husband, and my parents. And, we still sat around a campfire and had Jell-O shots and had cake and all the good things in life we still got to do. Just because she had Alzheimer's and my kids are autistic doesn't mean we needed to hide away on my birthday. You know what I mean? Like that was my day, so we did what I wanted to do, but not just what I wanted to do, but what my family liked to do as a family. Because my kid loved camping. Both of my kids loved camping. My grandmother loved camping in her youth, and it was different. There were more complicated layers to it, but the heck with it. We made our accommodations. We did what we could, and we had a blast. And that's what's most important. I have those memories, and now as long as I have the memories that I have, who knows, I might have them forever, I might not. But as long as I have the memories that I have that one weekend that I can really cherish, knowing that was my last birthday with my grandmother. I get to spend it with my grandmother, my kids, my parents, both of my parents, and the way I wanted to. And it was just a great weekend.
That is beautiful. That's true. That's why I say you got to take life by the horns, by the bull horns, and go with it. We all have struggles, and we all worry about what will people think? If I do this, if I do that. You know what? You got to do what's best for you. Listen to your gut instinct, and do what's best for you and your family. And don't worry about what people think. I will always honor Matt's life. I will always talk about Matt until I cannot do it anymore. And I will always talk about Alzheimer's, early onset, and other dementias, and mental health until I can't anymore, because it's so important. I'm glad that mental health now is more in the forefront since the pandemic. I hear public service announcements about it. It should have always been that way. It still needs to catch up. It still needs to be more accepted. And I'm using my voice, I'm using this show to help change society. I feel like you're doing my part, and I'm really blessed and grateful for doing what I do and meeting wonderful people like you, Sarah. And I want to thank you for coming on the show today, Sarah Stelmach-Brown. Do you have any words of wisdom you would like to leave with the audience? And where people, all you've said, Instagram you're on, and your Facebook. I'm going to put that in the blog. Excuse me.
Well, I want to say thank you so much for having me on, Betsy. It's always a pleasure to chat with you. You are just so real and just a breath of fresh air. So I do really enjoy talking with you. And thank you for having me on. And I appreciate that we went there with the dark stuff, and that we really I appreciate that you shared the suicide hotline, 988. Again, if you're struggling, 988, and if you're in immediate crisis, 911. And I also want to remind your audience that everybody is just one accident or illness away from possibly having to become a caregiver. So when you go about your life and you see people struggling, remember that. You're one diagnosis, one illness, one accident, one injury away from possibly having to become a caregiver. And go about your day and think about that. not in a negative way, just in a way of using that to have compassion and empathy for others and reduce stigma for people out in the community.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I agree, Sarah. I used to say, therefore by the grace of God go I, and it's true. And I'm going to add to that, Sarah. Thank you for bringing that up. As the population is aging, I'm 65, and I'm baby boomer. We're aging. Do you know that you are more prone to having a disability? It takes one fall, and you could end up being disabled. God forbid, a car accident. And people who judged my son and who judge other people's children who have special needs, thank God that your children are, are the way they are. Because you know what? A bike accident, car accident, an illness can take that away. I have seen it, folks. I have seen young people maimed by car accidents, their futures taken away. I've seen it. I've really, as a nurse in many years, I've seen it all. I don't know it all, but I've seen it all. And that's why we need to be grateful. I will never take for granted again being able to button a button, put on clothes, the things that we take for granted. Be grateful. And I say, you know what, if I could walk and talk and take care of myself, I'm blessed. Everything else is extra. I'm blessed. And be filled with gratitude, people. There's always something to be grateful for. And I want to thank you, Sarah Stelmach-Brown, for coming on. Folks, check out the Caregiver Chronicles on Apple, Spotify, Spreaker. It's all over, right, Sarah? You're all over many different platforms.
Yes,
YouTube.
Just on Amazon, YouTube. We're on Spotify, Apple, Google, Pandora. We're on pretty much every platform you could be on. I think we're on. We're on iHeartRadio. I think we're on almost everything.
And I want to encourage the audience to listen to Caregiver Chronicles. It's an amazing podcast. And Sarah's a girl after my own heart. I just enjoy, and she's real, and I like that. I like someone who's real and authentic, and that's how you are, Sarah. So thank you. Thank you for being real and honest and just being you, and I wish you best of luck in everything. And we need to keep in touch.
Absolutely.
And I want to thank you for coming on. I want to thank the listeners for listening. Please share this show to help other people. That's why I do the show, is to help people have a better life, to know you're not alone, to provide resources. And when you share this show, you are helping me honor Matt's legacy. And I am on iHeart, Spreaker, Spotify, Amazon Music, to name a few. And I want to thank Jeannie White, who's station manager, who writes the blog. Please read the blog. It will have information about Sarah Stelmach-Brown in it. And I want to thank Lillian Caldwell, who's CEO of Passion World Talk Radio, for making this all possible. And to thank you again for listening. Folks, as I always say at the end of my show, and I get so passionate about it, that in a world where you could be anything, please be kind and shine your light bright. Don't be afraid to shine your light and be who you are. And if we all did that, it would be a much happier and brighter world, and that's what I believe. And we just have to shine a light, because this world is dark, and people are struggling. People are having a hard time these days, and we need to be the light. See if you can help someone. Guide them to resources, even if you know that they are struggling. We all struggle at some point. Please don't judge. We need less judgment and more being supportive. And this is Betsy Wurzel, your host of Chatting with Betsy on Passionate World Talk Radio. Until we chat again, be safe, everyone. Bye-bye now.